On my sister's wedding day, they really went all out. They seated me at a table all by myself as if to say a factory worker on night shifts with just a high school diploma belonged nowhere else. I was the only one at a large round table, and it was painfully obvious. As I sat alone, a man approached quietly with a plate of food and a drink in his hand.
"Excuse me, would it be alright if I join you?"
I didn't mind. My name is Mary, and I work the night shift at a factory. I'm 21. It's common for many people at the factory to have night shifts, but being a high school dropout makes me an exception. I wasn't a bad student and didn't hate studying, but I couldn't attend high school. My parents, especially my mother, refused to let me go. No matter how much I begged, even when my teachers asked them to let me attend, my strong-willed mother shut it down, saying it was a waste of money. I have an older sister named Chelsea. She's pretty, smart, and the pride of our parents. My parents adored Chelsea, showering her with love and money while I received neither. They treated me as a servant, forcing me to work and give them my earnings.
"Mary, make dinner before your sister gets home. I told you she'd be home early today."
Every day I returned from night shifts around 7 a.m., and if I had overtime, I got back even later. Still, I was expected to cook breakfast for my family and clean up afterward before I could even think about sleeping. I was barely allowed to sleep before being woken up by 4 p.m. to prepare dinner again. I tried to protest. "I just had a long night with overtime. Can't I sleep a bit longer?"
Like you, a high school dropout who works in a factory, your sister has a prestigious job at a big company. She's entrusted with important work.
"Why can't you cook? You're home all day just lounging around." That set my mom off.
"How dare you? I'm your mother and you don't get to talk back to me."
My mother was a stay-at-home mom, but she left all the housework to me. She spent her days going out for lunch and karaoke with her friends. She was practically out, having fun all the time. My dad, although aware of how unfair this was too passive to do anything about it. Once he tried to say something to my mother, but she shut him down so hard that he never bothered trying again.
"Your mom doesn't listen to anyone, so it's best to just give up."
I'll never forget the time my dad said that to me when I tearfully begged to go to high school.
"Who do you think you are, asking for more? We did our job as parents by making sure you finished compulsory education."
If that's fulfilling their role as parents, then they should have at least let me finish high school.
"Hurry up and stop whining. There's no time. Do you want Italian or Indian tonight?"
I sighed as I prepared dinner, ignoring her ridiculous demands. Every evening, just as I left for my night shift, my sister would come home. I tried to avoid her as much as possible. If we crossed paths, I'd be showered with sarcastic remarks, so I always left the house early to avoid her. Unfortunately, today my mother delayed me with more chores and my sister walked in.
"I'm home." "Oh, welcome home, Chelsea. You must be so tired from work today. You always work so hard." "Yeah, it's been exhausting. One of the new hires is useless, and they just end up creating more work for me. So annoying." "You're so good at your job, though. The higher-ups must be impressed." "They are. They told me how much they're counting on me."
As they lavished compliments on her, I quickly tried to leave the house.
"Oh, heading to your night shift? Working night shifts in a factory must be tough, but I guess that's what you get for being a high school dropout."
Ignored her mocking laughter and walked toward the factory. There was no one on my side in this house. You'd think I'd just move out, but I couldn't leave. I had one reason: my cat, Susie. Susie was originally brought home because my sister wanted a cat, but as soon as she lost interest, I ended up being the one to take care of her. My sister acted like the queen of the house, so of course, my mother stopped caring about Susie once Chelsea did. My father was, as usual, a non-factor, so I took on the responsibility of caring for Susie. She was my one source of comfort in that house. Susie greeted me every morning when I came home, and on days when she didn't, I'd find her curled up in my bed waiting for me. During my teenage years, I often cried because of my family's cruelty, but Susie would always stay by my side, purring as if to comfort me. I tried many times to leave, but my mother always said the same thing. "You can't live on your own. You're a high school dropout, and the world isn't that easy. You'll never make it." My mother liked to call me ignorant of the world, but she had never worked a day in her life. If anyone was ignorant, it was her.
And by the way, you're not taking Susie with you. If you try, I'll dump her somewhere in the mountains.
She threatened me with this so often that I became terrified of leaving. I knew if I left, my mother would actually abandon Susie. She was capable of anything. I couldn't imagine a life without Susie, and she was my reason for staying. The only other thing keeping me going was Harry. Harry worked at the same factory as me. He was 23 and incredibly kind. He had gone through his own struggles with family, but had turned his life around, working hard and earning the trust of everyone around him.
Mary, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to tell me. I'm here for you no matter what.
Harry always praised me when I felt like I had no value, reminding me of my worth.
You're kind, hardworking, and thoughtful. Everyone at work thinks highly of you. You've got so many people who care about you, Mary.
He said things that made me blush, but it felt good to be appreciated. Most of our dates took place at Harry's apartment since we didn't like spending too much money. I would often bring Susie along, and the three of us would have a great time together. Harry and Susie got along so well that they seemed inseparable.
Susie, you're a smart cat. Take care of Mary, okay?
Susie would always respond with a meow, as if understanding Harry's words. I loved both of them dearly. One day my sister came home in an unusually good mood, grinning from ear to ear while holding a huge bouquet of roses.
Oh, Mary, look at this. Isn't it amazing?
It was so big that it covered her entire upper body. I couldn't help but ask, "Wow, that's huge. What's the occasion?" I didn't usually care to engage with her, but my curiosity got the better of me.
My boyfriend proposed to me. We're getting married. Isn't that incredible?
I knew she had a boyfriend, but I had never met him. Hearing about her engagement didn't stir any strong emotions in me.
He works at the same company as me, earns a ton of money, and he's super handsome. You wouldn't know what it's like to meet someone like that. A high school dropout working the night shift at a factory.
Seeing her boast, I realized how foolish I had been to ask. I just wanted to leave for work, but ignoring her would only make things worse. Trying not to show how tired and irritated I was, I forced a smile. "That's great. Congratulations. Sorry, I have to get going now."
Yeah, run along and work hard, okay?
My sister called out after me, still gloating.
My fiancé's coming over tomorrow, just so you know.
I rolled my eyes as I headed out the door. The next evening, I came home later than usual, hoping to avoid meeting her fiancé. As I walked through the front door, I saw my sister and an unfamiliar man emerging from the living room.
Oh, welcome home, high school dropout. Let me introduce you. This is Brian, my fiancé.
I forced a polite smile. "Nice to meet you. I'm Mary, Chelsea's sister. Sorry for my appearance. I just got back from work."
Oh, I see.
Brian looked me up and down, taking in my factory uniform, and I instantly felt judged. He was tall, handsome, and well-dressed, just as my sister had described.
Yeah, Chelsea told me you were a high school dropout working at a factory. It definitely suits you.
At that moment, I realized he was just like my sister, condescending and arrogant. Brian's smile was cold, and his eyes didn't reflect any warmth.
Isn't it embarrassing? Sorry about her.
My sister linked her arm through his like she was showing off.
It's fine, I'm a forgiving person, but maybe you could at least try to make yourself look presentable, Mary.
His words were condescending, but I knew better than to engage. I smiled as best as I could, hiding my frustration. I'm sorry. With a night shift and everything, I just didn't have the energy today. If you'll excuse me, I'll go rest now. They smirked as I left the room. I didn't care where my parents were or what they thought. I just wanted to find Susie and get some peace. But as I walked up the stairs to my room, I realized something strange. Susie wasn't there. I called her name as I searched, but there was no response. Susie was a smart cat and always answered when I called her. Panic began to set in. Had something happened to her while I was at work? Had my parents taken her to the vet? I rushed back downstairs just as my parents came home. They were both talking, and I noticed scratches on their hands. What happened to your hands? My voice trembled as I asked.
Oh, those? It's nothing. We took Susie out in her carrier and left her in the mountains.
My mind went blank. What did you just say? I couldn't comprehend what I had just heard.
Brian is allergic to cats, so we had to get rid of her.
What? You abandoned her in the mountains? How could you?
Oh, what do you expect? We can't let our cat ruin your sister's wedding.
All the anger I had kept bottled up over the years suddenly erupted. Susie was part of this family. You always put Chelsea first. Don't you care about anyone else? I screamed, sobbing uncontrollably as all the years of pent-up frustration came out at once. Even my mother looked startled, as I had never spoken out against her like this before.
Oh, what's all this noise about?
My sister and Brian stepped into the hallway, clearly amused by my breakdown.
Thanks for getting rid of the cat for me. Much appreciated.
My blood boiled. How could you let them do this? Why didn't you stop them?
I'm allergic to cats and I don't like them anyway.
I was shaking with fury.
Come on, Mary, it's just a cat. You can always get a new one after Chelsea and I move out.
That's not the point. I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing.
Stop crying and making a scene. You're so dramatic.
My mother pushed me aside as she walked back into the living room with my sister and Brian, leaving me alone in the hallway.
If you go about 20 minutes into the mountain from the entrance, that's where we left Susie.
My father's voice was quiet and filled with regret.
I didn't want to do it, but your mother insisted.
It was the first time I had ever heard my father apologize for anything. My father's apology left me stunned, but I couldn't focus on that now. I had to find Susie. Despite being exhausted from my night shift, I sprinted out of the house and called Harry on the way. It rang for what felt like forever, but finally Harry picked up.
Mary? What's going on? Why are you crying? Where are you?
I could barely speak through my sobs. Susie, they abandoned Susie in the mountains.
What? Are you serious? Where are you? I'm coming right now.
I ran toward the mountain as fast as I could.
Stay where you are. I'll meet you.
I saw Harry running toward me in the distance. When he reached me, he handed me a bottle of water. I drank it quickly, trying to catch my breath. They dumped Susie in the mountains. I couldn't stop crying as I explained everything to Harry.
That's insane. I can't believe they do that.
Harry was furious on my behalf, but he kept calm for me. My dad told me where they left her. Can you help me find her?
Of course. Let's go.
We jumped into Harry's car and drove toward the mountain. Once we arrived, we searched everywhere, calling Susie's name, but there was no response. No sign of her anywhere. Susie's gone. I can't find her. I collapsed, crying harder than ever. We had searched for hours, but there was nothing.
We need to go back for now, Mary. It's getting dark. We'll try again tomorrow.
I could barely nod in agreement, completely drained both physically and emotionally. Harry helped me back into the car and drove me home. When we arrived, my entire family was outside along with Brian.
Oh, look, the dropout's back. What happened to your face? You look awful.
They were laughing. Their mockery was too much. My anger surged back. How dare you laugh? This is all your fault, everything.
What are you talking about? You're being so dramatic over a cat.
Seriously, still going on about that? Oh, get over it. Susie's just a cat and your sister comes first.
I'll never forgive you. Never. I lunged toward them, but Harry stepped in.
This is unbelievable. Mary, you can't stay in this house anymore. I'm taking you with me. Oh, who's this? Are you her boyfriend? I didn't realize you were into high school dropouts too. Actually, I graduated high school, but I'm not here to argue with you. Mary, grab your things, and let's go.
I rushed into the house and gathered my essentials. As I packed, I could hear my mother, Chelsea, and Brian saying terrible things about Harry. I ignored them and focused on leaving. When I came back downstairs, my mother finally spoke up.
Are you really leaving? What about all the housework? Who's going to cook and clean?
I didn't respond, but Harry did.
That's for you all to figure out. She's done enough.
My mother tried to protest, but this time my father intervened.
Just let her go. She's been through enough. Chelsea's getting married soon, and she'll be out of the house anyway.
Fine. It's not like I'll need her after I move out.
With that, I left my family behind and climbed into Harry's car. As we drove away, I made a vow to never look back and to get my revenge on all of them. Harry let me stay with him until we could find me a place to live. Everyone at the factory knew about my difficult family situation, and they were all incredibly supportive. especially our factory boss, who was a huge cat lover. When I told him what had happened, he was livid.
If your mother comes here again, I'll have her arrested.
He was an intimidating guy with a muscular build, and I could tell my mother wouldn't dare come near the factory again after he spoke with her. Meanwhile, Chelsea and my mother kept calling me, demanding I attend the wedding, but I ignored every message. Then the wedding date was set, and I realized the day I had been waiting for had finally arrived. Harry, my sister's wedding is coming up.
Are you going to go?
Of course. I can't wait. When the wedding day arrived, I was ready. Brian's family hadn't met me before because I had skipped the initial introductions. Chelsea had told them I was too embarrassed to attend because I was a high school dropout. She had even sent me a message instructing me to stick to that story. I'm so sorry I missed the initial meeting. I was just too ashamed to stand in front of such an esteemed family with my lack of education. Brian's family was kind, reassuring me that it wasn't a big deal. Meanwhile, my mother Chelsea and Brian were busy playing the roles of perfect family members, putting on their best "we're so wonderful" act. I watched, smiling politely, but feeling nothing inside. Then during the reception, they did it. They seated me at a table, all alone. One large round table with only me at it. It was their way of reminding me of my place, the factory worker with no education.
We figured you'd be more comfortable on your own, considering how nervous you get around people with real educations.
I could hear the whispers around me, but I didn't care. I calmly ate my meal, minding my own business, when a man approached with a plate and a drink.
Excuse me, may I join you?
I don't mind.
Thank you. My name is Paul, and I'm the CEO at Brian and your sister's company.
Oh, I see. Thank you for everything you've done for them. I greeted him politely.
No need for that, but if I'm not mistaken, do you work at a certain factory?
I was taken aback that he had recognized me. Yes, that's right, I do. Have we met before?
Not directly. I've visited your factory and read about your team's work in an industry magazine. I saw your picture there.
Oh, yes, I remember that. I explained that my team was working on a new project aimed at improving the happiness of pets. The project had been featured in the magazine, and we were all working hard to make it a success.
I'm very interested in that project. I wanted to ask you more about it, but I feel bad bringing up work on such a special day.
He smiled warmly, and I felt comfortable with him. Actually, I'm curious. Are you a cat person by any chance?
Yes, I've loved cats since I was 5 years old, and I've always had one. My current cat is my pride and joy. I assume you have a cat as well?
I nodded, feeling a sense of connection. As he showed me a picture of his cat on his phone, I realized it was the same breed as Susie. Seeing how much he cared for his cat, I decided to tell him the truth about my sister and Brian. Actually, Paul, my sister didn't tell you the full story about her and pets.
Oh, what do you mean?
You see, my sister doesn't actually care about Susie, my cat. She's been pretending. The photos of Susie that she showed you, she took them from my phone.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's true. And what's worse, because her fiancé, Brian, is allergic to cats, they dumped Susie in the mountains.
They abandoned a cat?
Yes, they put her in a carrier and left her in the woods to die. They didn't even care. My mom and dad helped, and neither my sister nor Brian stopped them. They even thanked my parents for getting rid of Susie.
This can't be real. Your sister and Brian never mentioned any of this.
It's real. I've been searching for Susie, but I haven't found her yet. Paul's face turned red with anger.
I gave your sister a chance at this job because I thought she loved animals. I'm shocked to hear that she would do something so heartless.
Paul was fuming. Yeah, Brian was laughing about it. He said, "It's just a cat. Why are you so upset? Like Susie's life meant nothing."
This is unacceptable. A cat is a living being, a family member. How could they do this?
Paul clenched his fists. Just then, my sister and Brian walked by our table.
Paul, what are you doing here? Is everything okay?
I was just having a very enlightening conversation with your sister, Mary.
Oh, well, I hope she wasn't bothering you. You know, she's not very sophisticated.
My sister's nervousness was palpable.
She's a high school dropout, so it's not like she could have an important conversation with someone like you. Actually, you're wrong. Your sister, Mary, is working on a very important project. I find her work impressive. In fact, I'm much more interested in what she has to say than anything you or Brian have told me.
Oh, what?
My sister was visibly shaken. She tried to laugh it off, but was clearly panicking.
Oh, come on. You're exaggerating, right, Mary?
She shot me a look, hoping I would save her from the situation. No, Paul is right. You've never cared about anything I do. You've always looked down on me. Brian stepped in, looking defensive.
Look, we were just joking around. Everyone knows factory workers aren't as successful as college graduates. It's just a fact.
I smiled at his pathetic attempt to downplay the situation. Joking, huh? Like how you joked about dumping Susie in the mountains because of your allergy? I made sure my voice was loud enough for people nearby to hear. The room started to buzz with whispers.
Mary, stop! What are you doing?
My sister's face turned bright red with anger and embarrassment.
You're being ridiculous. That cat was getting in the way of our lives. We did what we had to do.
That's when my mother came rushing over, clearly overhearing everything.
Mary, stop spreading these lies. You're just trying to ruin your sister's big day.
She tried to pull me away, but I stood my ground. Lies? I'm not lying, and you know it. In fact, I have proof. I took out my phone and played the recording I had from the day Susie was abandoned. It captured the entire conversation where my family discussed dumping Susie. Paul's face darkened as he listened to every word.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. I gave your sister responsibility at work because I thought she loved animals. And now I find out she's involved in abandoning one? This is outrageous.
No, Paul, it's not what it sounds like.
She's exaggerating everything.
Paul looked at both of them, disgusted.
I don't think I need to hear any more.
Paul stood up from the table.
This wedding may be a joyous occasion for you two, but for me, it's been nothing short of eye-opening. I'll be re-evaluating both of your positions in the company.
Chelsea tried to stop him.
Please, Paul, don't do this. I need this job.
You should have thought about that before you abandoned a living creature.
With that, Paul walked away, leaving my sister and Brian stunned. Their wedding day was in shambles, and I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. Well, I guess that's my cue to leave. Congratulations on the wedding, by the way. I hope you two are very happy together. I turned and left the reception without looking back. I didn't know what would happen to my sister or Brian after that, but I didn't care. I had already cut ties with my family, and after today, I had no reason to ever speak to them again. Harry and I started a new life together. We moved into a pet-friendly apartment, and miraculously, we found Susie. Someone from a nearby pet cemetery had found her and taken her in, caring for her until we were reunited. Susie was thrilled to see me, jumping in my arms, purring and licking my face. It was the happiest moment of my life. From then on, it was the three of us, Harry, Susie, and me. We were a family. To add to the good news, Paul visited our factory shortly after the wedding and offered to fund our pet project. Thanks to his support, we were able to take the project to new heights. As for Chelsea and Brian, their wedding was cancelled immediately after I left. Their relationship fell apart and they both ended up quitting their jobs after their reputations were ruined. Chelsea retreated to my parents' house, hiding away from the world. I heard my father sent me a text saying he was divorcing my mother, but honestly I couldn't care less about them anymore. They're all paying the price for their selfishness. As for me, I'm finally surrounded by people who truly care about me. Harry, Susie, and my coworkers are my real family now. I'm happy, and I plan to stay that way.